Info Plus for genuine information.
In a solemn memory held in Kathmandu, the embassies of Israel and Germany marked the International Day of Commemoration in memory of the victims of the Holocaust. The event held on January 27, 2025 honored the 6 million Jewish lives lost and reinforced the global commitment to remembering history. Six candles were lit as a tribute to those who perished during one of the darkest chapters of human history. A moving testimony from Holocaust survivors was also screened, offering a powerful first-hand account of suffering and resilience. Speaking on the lessons of history, Honorable Dr. Surya Prasad Sharma Dhungel of the National Human Rights Commission emphasized that the Holocaust was not just a tragedy for the Jewish people or Europe. It was a failure of humanity itself.
Today, January 27, we gather here in solemn remembrance of one of the darkest chapters. These words are we have been repeatedly hearing, darkest chapters in human history, the Holocaust. On this day, we honor the memory of the 6 million Jewish men, women, and children. Actually, when we talk about Jews, when we hear about these things, recently, as my daughter is married to a Jew community, Jew engineer in Australia, and there was a news about the attack on Jews. I immediately called my daughter and said, "Are you safe?" She see the danger how still now the Jews are suffering psychologically they had to suffer, and children who were systematically murdered, as we say, alongside many others, millions of others. The date thus marks the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau, a place that remains an eternal symbol of humanity's darkest chapter that reminds us never again. The Holocaust was not merely a tragedy of the Jewish people or Europe. It was a failure of humanity itself. It serves as a stark reminder of what can happen when hatred is normalized, when prejudice goes unchecked, and when justice is denied. Nepal, a country that always values peace and harmony, has also experienced its share of suffering. The decade-long conflict left thousands of families grieving, searching for answers, and waiting for discovery of truth and justice. As we reflect on the Holocaust, it is also an opportunity to draw lessons for Nepal's own journey towards reconciliation and justice through the Truth and Reconciliation Commission process, which has been unduly crippled for nearly 2 decades. The nation's prolonged silence is conveying a negative message, denial of justice.
U.S. Ambassador Dean R. Thompson highlighted the shared responsibility to stand against anti-Semitism, racism, and all forms of intolerance. He conveyed greetings from U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, reaffirming unwavering support for Holocaust survivors and their heirs.
We've gathered today as a break from our normal routines to solemnly reflect on the events of the Holocaust, this horrific event that, as we've heard, claimed the lives of over 6 million Jews and significant other populations, including the Roma, the disabled, Jehovah's Witnesses, LGBTQI communities, and so many others. These are tragedies that we can never forget, and that we have to constantly remind ourselves the importance of silence is consent. We want to both honor those who endured these atrocities and remind one another that it's our collective responsibility today to stand against anti-Semitism, against racism, and against all forms of hatred and intolerance. One personal reflection I wanted to make, Benjamin, I've had the opportunity to spend some time in Berlin, and I just have to, honor the German government's commitment to remembering. The memorials there are touching, truthful, and an important and significant part of memorializing what happened. And we appreciate that very much. Having also had numerous chances to visit Israel, it's wonderful to see what the Israeli people and the Jewish people have built out of such tragedy. And we remind ourselves of our enduring partnership with Israel as we remember the horrors of the Holocaust. The United States remains firm in its commitment to the international Jewish community and to all those who seek a life of dignity and one free from persecution. And I hope that together we can continue to build a world that remembers our history and is committed to a future of respect, compassion, and peace for all people. I wanted to take one moment just to offer greetings from Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who issued a statement today on the International Day of Remembrance. And in particular, I wanted to note his comment that as Secretary, he will continue his unwavering support for the Holocaust survivors and heirs. And so I'm very confident that we will continue to be a partner in remembering and honoring the period of such devastation.
Germany Deputy Chief of Mission Benjamin Schedel reminded attendees that the Holocaust did not begin with gas chambers. It began with words of hate and division. He called for continued efforts to combat anti-Semitism and discrimination in all forms.
Today we mark 80 years since the liberation of Auschwitz-Birkenau by Soviet troops on January 27, 1945. A moment in history that revealed the depth of human cruelty and the unspeakable horrors inflicted upon millions of innocent lives. This solemn day serves as a poignant reminder of consequences of hatred, bigotry, and totalitarianism. As we gather here in Kathmandu, we join survivors, families, and leaders across the globe, particularly in Oswiecim in Poland, where the Auschwitz camps once stood. There, millions perished as victims of the Nazi regime's calculated and industrialized genocide. I extend my deepest gratitude to the Israeli Embassy for jointly organizing this profound occasion today, which unites us in shared reflection and resolve. This day compels us to honor the memory of 6 million Jews, men, women, and children, who were systematically murdered, alongside the countless others who were targeted by the Nazis' dehumanizing ideology. These include the Sinti and Roma, whose culture and communities were nearly erased. Slavic populations, degraded as subhumans and exploited for forced labor. Prisoners of war left to perish from starvation and disease. Victims of state-mandated euthanasia programs where the vulnerable were deemed unworthy of life. LGBTQI individuals persecuted and criminalized for their identity. And all those who resisted the Nazi regime out of religious, political, or moral conviction. We also remember the survivors, whose stories of unimaginable suffering and resilience continue to educate and inspire. Yet we must also acknowledge the profound struggles many endured in rebuilding their lives, often in a world that remained indifferent or hostile to their pain. Their courage in bearing witness serves as an enduring beacon, challenging us to confront both historical and contemporary injustices. So while today is primarily a day of remembrance, it is also a call to action. The Holocaust did not begin with gas chambers, it began with words. Words of hate, of division, and dehumanization. This sobering reality underscores our shared responsibility as democratic citizens to stand resolutely against anti-Semitism, racism, xenophobia, and all forms of discrimination. This commitment is more critical than ever as we are witnessing the resurgence of hate-fueled ideologies, not only parts of Europe but across the globe. Disturbing trends of rising anti-Semitism, Holocaust denial, and increasing hostility toward minorities remind us that history's lessons must never be taken for granted. Yet, even amid these challenges, there are powerful symbols of hope and reconciliation. One such example is the enduring diplomatic relationship between Israel and Germany, which this year celebrates its 60th anniversary. This partnership stands as a testament to humanity's capacity for healing, for reconciliation, dialogue, and progress, even in the aftermath of unspeakable atrocities. And this reminds us that through mutual understanding and collaboration, nations can transcend even the darkest chapters of their history.
Israeli Ambassador Smilik Erisbaz emphasized the importance of educating younger generations to ensure that a tragedy is never repeated. He reflected on the United Nations efforts in establishing Holocaust remembrance as a global priority.
The United Nations General Assembly held its first special session to commemorate the Holocaust. It was to mark the 60th anniversary of liberation of Auschwitz. For the first time, a Yad Vashem museum exhibition was presented at the entrance to the United Nations building in New York, and a special ceremony was held on the evening of that day in the presence of the UN Secretary General and the Minister of Foreign Affairs of Israel, and for the first time the anthem of Israel, Hope, Hatikva, was sung. That year, 2005, was dedicated to promoting awareness and engagement from the side of Israel with the UN in general and with subject of the Holocaust at the United Nations specifically. It was done with friends such as the then Secretary General Kofi Annan and the UN member states cooperating with Israel. The culmination of the process was the adoption of the General Assembly resolution marked 60/7, which was drafted by a special team established for this purpose in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Israel, together with the renowned historian Professor Yehuda Bauer. Against all odds and concerns, the team insisted on including two components in this resolution. One, the establishment of a special department in the UN Secretariat whose sole function is to commemorate the Holocaust, hold ceremonies within the UN system around the world, as well as the establishment of a permanent exhibition on the final solution and the Holocaust in the visitors' route of the United Nations building. The second component, the establishment of an International Holocaust Remembrance Day. On the recommendation of Professor Bauer, it was proposed and set January 27th, the day that Germany already designated beforehand, which is the day of the liberation of Auschwitz death camps by the Red Army. Since then, the entire world has commemorated the Holocaust on this day, and this year will mark the 80th anniversary of the liberation of the extermination camp. The draft resolution was promoted within the corridors of the United Nations in New York, leading to the approval of it in consensus. I thank all those present here for honoring the memory of the 6 million Jewish people murdered in the Holocaust and many, many others from various nations and groups, as well as fighters against the Nazis from the ghettos and from the Allied forces. We mark this International Holocaust Remembrance Day around the world, as well as in Israel in April, with about 100,000 very elderly Holocaust survivors. Naturally, this number will decrease in the coming years. It will not change the supreme duty. Humanity must mark this day in memory of the victims in order to educate the younger generations so that tragedy of such great magnitude will never happen again.
Adding to the reflective atmosphere, students from Himali Boarding School and Kathmandu Pragya Kunja School performed musical pieces, paying tribute to the victims and survivors. A heartfelt musical tributes by students added to the reflective atmosphere as the exhibition Auschwitz, A Place on Earth, continued to educate and remind future generations of the lessons of history.
InfoPlus for genuine information.